Well, 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 time has flown by. Today has been, for many of us, a very exacting but exciting day. Welcome to Men on Mondays. Welcome from north to south, east to west. It is the place and time for the unrehearsed, practical conversation as we talk about issues dealing with this issue of being a man. Yes, issues dealing with this issue of being a man. And for the last week or so, we've had Wayne and Deshaun as we talk about the practical stuff, encounters in their own lives, dealing with the stuff we've talked about. And I want to welcome again back on set, and momentarily I will get to him. But let me begin with reminding you of the cruise. Yes, it's the Footprints of Hope cruise, October 19 to 26. The information is on your screen, and hey, time is rushing by. In as much as you have up until the end of June, I think June 27, to make your final payment. The earlier you do that, it's better for us, so that as you book early, we're better able to bargain our way with the cruise line. Yes, it is Footprints of Hope cruise. Come for the fellowship, come for the fun, come for dialogue as we walk in the footprints of Jesus. Yes, we're going to be having fun time aboard the great carnival celebration. Yes, it's carnival celebration. And if you've been baptized in Footprints, if you have been a supporter of Footprints, if you've been a friend of Footprints, join us for the Footprints of Hope cruise, October 19 to 26, sailing from Miami to Grand Turks and Nassau and Freeport and I think Dominican Republic or somewhere thereabout. But I just want to know, the information is there live and direct. Call Carnival or call us here at West Jamaica. Tomorrow morning, I will dedicate some time to make sure if you call here, we will get you on track. So again, it is $845 per person, and the sooner you book, you will be able to hold the cost right there. But after June, we may not, well, after the end of April, that cost may run away from you. So again, I'll come back to it toward the end of our presentation. But for right now, we're going to go to music, and then we'll come back to the conversation. So join me now as we have music. We'll come right back for the conversation.
Of my trials I cannot bear, all these burdens alone. In my distress He kindly will help me. He ever loves and cares for His own. I must tell Jesus. I must tell Jesus. I cannot bear all these burdens alone. I must tell Jesus. I must tell Jesus. Jesus can help me. Jesus alone. Well tempted and tried, I need a great Savior, one who can help all my burdens to bear. So I must tell Jesus, I must tell Jesus, He all my cares and all my burdens will share. Oh, I must tell Jesus. See, I must tell Jesus, for I cannot bear all these burdens alone. No, I must tell Jesus. I must tell Jesus. Jesus can help me. Yes, He can. My Jesus alone. Oh, I must tell Jesus. Oh, yes. I must tell Jesus. I must tell Jesus. Jesus can help me. Jesus can help me. I know Jesus, He can help me. Jesus can help me. Don't you know Jesus can help me? Jesus can help me. My Jesus alone. Yes, He can. Jesus alone.
Thank you, Mikhail, for that powerful song. Powerful words indeed. Practical. I must tell Jesus. There are some trials we have. There are some troubles. And hey, whether you're handsome like the singer or ugly like the host right here, we'll all have problems. Life is never free. Hear me. Whether you're a young man, a middle-aged, an old man, it's a natural part of life. We are vulnerable to life's natural processes. And we've come to the conversation, Men on Mondays. And with me this afternoon is the young and talented Deshaun. What's your full name? Middle name and all.
I can't disclose my middle name on television like that, sir. But the name is Deshaun Leach. It's a pleasure to be here.
Always an honor to have you. And if you were with us last week, you would have recalled, and by the way, our other friend who was with us last week, he is a father, and he got home to come back, but his son wasn't doing too well, so Wayne isn't with us this evening. Now, last week, Sean, we started talking about you praying a certain prayer for a long time. And I got around to thinking of it during the week since we've been away. And I've come across a number of not just young men, but high school young ladies with suicidal ideation. In a dialogue with one, she had cut herself several times because of depression and stuff. And the prayer you prayed is the reality of not only males, but females. We're talking about men on Mondays. And here you are, strong young man, and you're asking God to take your life. And so we talked last week that the issue of handling life is more than what any man can handle by himself. Jeremiah prayed, "O Lord, I know it is not in man that walketh to direct his steps." I'm going to give you two verses to chew on. It's Jeremiah 9:23 and Jeremiah 10:23. Jeremiah 9 verse 23 and chapter 10 verse 23. One verse said, "O Lord, I know that the way of man is not in himself. It is not in man that walketh to direct his steps." The next verse said, "Let not the wise man glory in his wisdom. Let not the mighty man glory in his might. Let not the rich man glory in his riches. But the one who glories, let him glory in his knowledge and understanding that there is a God in whom he trusts." And so the background to our conversation is the role of the Bible in the life of those of us who call ourselves men. Now, here's a young man who you're asking God, so God, take my life, because, boy, it no makes sense. And we were dancing back and forth between the prayer you prayed and how God answered it. So I'm going to take you back to before God take it over from you and answer it the way that put you on a different track. Because my reason for going back there, I've come to understand that every day there are some men, young and old, who are either going into depression or coming out of depression, or they are in a depression. Because life is like that. You're either coming out of a crisis, you are in a crisis, or you're going into one. How do we flex with it? In my hand is a book that says, The Power of Your Attitude by Stan Stoller. And I read that there is no attitude, there is no problem facing you that is as important as your attitude to it. So let's go back. Let's go back to the prayer. God, take my life.
Well, in regards to the power of your attitude, and even considering the issues that each individual are facing, it may not be the same. And it can be the same, depending on if people can have that conversation. It's unfortunate to know that many people have focused so much on the problem itself that they have not made space for what God can do in their circumstance. I had that similar issue where I was so concerned with what I thought was that I didn't take in the reality of what actually is. And every day that I prayed that prayer surprisingly brought me closer to Him. Although I seemed lost, but I pray for you to take my life and you keep on giving me life. So at some point in time, I had to face the reality that I was here for a purpose. I was actually here to carry out a mission that's greater than my request. So in the more I prayed and prayed and prayed, and I was frustrated that I still had life, I had to give in to the reality that God has a greater purpose for my life.
And that's a critical statement, to recognize, to acknowledge, and to come face to face with it, that God has a greater purpose for your life. And so if you're watching, maybe you have a son who's in depression, maybe you have a husband, a boyfriend, a brother, a cousin, but there's a male in your life, there's a friend you have, there's a friend you know that feels that, boy, life is dealing him a hand that he can't play, and he feels that the only way out is to end his life. Somebody said, do not allow something about a temporary problem. I'll find it and come back to it. But the idea was, don't end your life over a problem that could be temporary. Now you said that while you were struggling with the issue of asking God to take your life, somewhere in the mix and the maze and the miasma of all of that twists and turns, you discovered there has to be a greater purpose for your life. So between God take my life and God redirecting your life, talk with me about the transition, the new discovery.
The new discovery would have come from the place of noticing how other individuals seemed to always be on a mission for Christ, always having a purpose. And then and that's only like we are now, in front of the camera, in front of the crowd. Everybody seems to be having well composed, and you're like, no, they can't have no problem. They're going on God's mission. They're doing this, they're doing that.
Hold on, write this up. So my wife, Darcella Iris Ali Samuels, she doesn't like me to call her the name her mother gave her. My mother-in-law is Iris, sweet lady, and she gave this girl her name, and the girl didn't like the name, so I can call her Iris again. Darcella Iris Ali Samuels. She marks math, CXC and stuff, and she was working, still is, at Manchester High School. She used to be at Moby High. And so one day she called from Kingston and asked me to go by the school to collect some documents or things she needed in Kingston. So I parked my car and I'm walking across to the admin block. And this lady is walking and staring at me. Walking and staring. So I stopped, so I said, hi.
What's going on?
And she said something to herself. I didn't hear her. So I walked over to her, reached out my hand to shake hands with her. And she reluctantly took my hand And then she said, Papa Jesus, am I real smart if it's true? So you said sometimes folk look at you,
Yes, sir.
and as far as they're concerned, you don't have any trial, you don't have any trouble. You appear on set, or you sing, or you were a teacher or a pastor. A young man held me with a gun some years ago. And we sat down together under God's open sky. And he said to me, I don't know about hard life. So I sat him down, gun in his hand, but God over my head. So he had a gun in his hand, I have God over my life. And we sat and talked. And when I talked him through that I know what it was to be hungry and can't go to school, he popped, it's night in a moonshine. And we're sitting close to each other. He had the gun in his right hand. Yeah. I'm sitting close to his left side. And we chatted for almost an hour and a half. We became good friends afterwards out of that situation.
Yes, sir.
Because there are folk who look at you. Listen to me. There's a man out there who you may feel that you are the only one with the struggles you're having. Not so. What I can tell you is that all of us face temptations, whether it be the temptations for sex, the temptations to lie, the temptations to cheat, the temptations. The difference is how you respond to it. And you can bounce back from any failure, because failure is never final. Hear me, brother, hear me. Listen up, straighten up. Yeah, man, it's you. The song says, is you I'm talking to, man. You know the song?
Yeah, I'm familiar with it.
You sure you know the song?
No, not like that. If you're going to sing on stage, no, I'm not familiar with it like that.
Yeah, man, the song said, you be talking to. And it said, in this life, in this old sweet life, we're coming in from the cold.
Oh.
Yeah, man, it's Bob Marley.
That's
He said, no make the system make you kill the brother, man. No dread, no. There is nothing that you face in this life that has to take you out of this life. God is able, if you can believe, and Sean said earlier that if you can believe and discover that there is a purpose for your life. No, I interrupted you because you mentioned that some folk look at you sometimes and feel that you don't have struggles. And I reflected on the lady who feel that because she saw me on TV, I wasn't a real somebody.
Because many people don't have access to you, so they don't know you.
But I'm an open book. I'm just Isilda's boy.
They assume based on your stature, based on your position, that you're not a regular person like them.
Listen, man, regular people like you love dumpling and ackee and saltfish and green banana. Yeah, man, rice and peas sometimes, but me love me dump. Regular somebody like you.
And people need to be more practical about it. And here's where, as you said, not allowing the issues to overcome you, or even to cause you to stumble. Yes, you will lose sight of the path that you were on. However, as you said, if you can believe, if your problem is true, why is the solution not true?
Somebody said, and they were helping me out here, this is Pastor Samuels, it is, don't make a permanent decision over a temporary problem.
True.
I was trying to get it earlier. Don't make a permanent decision over, and somebody said,
problem.
Why you look, somebody here, Conrad, know the song, man, why you look so sad and forsaken. Don't them know when one door is closed, another one. Thank you for the song, man. It's real stuff, you know. Some formers told me that I don't only sing Rock of Ages, Cleft for Me, and Amazing Grace. Because you see, for me, music is a social commentary. It is true, some of them don't make no sense. Some of them is just 7 words repeated 11 times in each second. But I believe that there are some songs that hold a message, especially for us men. Especially when you feel that you've been downtrodden. Listen, Martin Luther said, freedom will not be given to the oppressed by the oppressor. It must be demanded by the oppressed. If you stay down there, you may be down there so long that getting up is never on your mind. Remember what Deshaun said, and talk to me about, you said God has a purpose for your life.
Yes, and in regards to God's purpose for my life and others, I think giving me the examples to speak with others about my story, especially young youth, whether my son is 9 this year, and to hear me speaking to other people that I wanted to die and I wanted to take my life, he's looking at me weird as if, are really my father this? And we're talking about, we have such a great relationship. Is carrying him to the beach, we're playing football with him almost every other evening. Even sometimes we're at home and we hear the ice cream truck and I'll jump in the car and say, come on, I will drive and go look for the ice cream truck just for him and I to have a moment. But in regards to having a purpose, it's not holding yourself accountable to your scars, but understanding that there's a process of healing that comes in the form of change and a transformation of what your life could be. Yes, you drop your brush off, but you're supposed to run again. You had a 5K the other night, and you can just imagine how many people took on that struggle.
You just said, and you know, every statement you make sometimes, I'm a hopeless case when it comes to social commentary. So you talk about starting, pick yourself up. I don't know who sang the song, and somebody in the chat may help me with it. I'm gonna pick myself up and start all over again. Because you see, somebody would have had an encounter, would have picked themselves up, wrote it, put music to it, and sing it so that somebody listening can discover that there is a purpose for your life. Now somebody else sang, starting all over again, it's gonna be rough. Listen, there is no fact facing you that is as critical as your attitude towards that fact. Sure. Even if you are a third-rate person struggling with a second-class assignment, your attitude to it can help you do a first-class job. Now, Deshaun has had, and one of the things I love about him is that he's real. Him no grown corner. Him no want to put on our makeup. We just talk the real stuff. And that's what happened. He just said a few minutes ago that he builds a relationship with his son. So let me ask you, what does a relationship mean? What do relationships mean to men? You're having one with your young son that gives you a purpose. And by the way, there are some young adults, male and female, who didn't plan the pregnancy and keep telling the child you're a mistake. And every day of their lives, they drill that mental darkness in the child's mind.
And to some extent, I think that is a trauma response in regards to the parenting. Parenting reliving their past by seeing what their children were doing, where it reminds them of how their parents had disciplined them, not in the right way. But in regards to what relationships would mean to me, I think a relationship is where a safe space, where you can actually be judged and corrected, and even to offer guidance and advice. If I've always heard that if my friend can correct me, that's not my friend.
If your friend
cannot
can correct you,
me,
that's not your friend. And if you're going to feel afraid to correct your friend, you're not being a good friend to your friend.
True.
A good friend then in a relationship is somebody who can tell you off and still be your friend. Who can tell you the raw truth that you don't want to face about yourselves, and it doesn't destroy the relationship.
Yes, and that's one of the other things that I love about being a man. If in Jamaica, we have the term called gimmicks. And in regards to that, somebody would make fun of you to the ends of the earth only to get you to build your confidence. Because the things that you would have been insecure about are the things that they would bring up. But at the same time, they're laughing about it, which means there's joy in overlooking your insecurities and finding a real space where you can let it all out, you can drop your guard, and just be honest. And as I said before, the relationship that came out of that prayer is a result of you and I having the conversation. No, it's not that I wished to die because I feel like nothing was ever going right for me. I only felt the pressure of not understanding what life was about as a teen. And as you were engaging in various acts that kind of sway the pendulum from, oh, you're a child, to you're becoming an adult, or you're adolescent becoming an adult because you're curious of how the world works, you start to realize there are tweaks in your behavior and the impulses become stronger. The temptation is far more than you could ever imagine.
Let me interrupt. Have you ever felt lonely in a crowd? Have you
Yeah.
ever felt lonely at church?
Yeah, because while we're all here together, you don't know my problem. I mean, I really feel like I can talk to you because I've never seen you in a weak state and or I've never seen you be vulnerable. So therefore, yes, you may be an individual who has similar issues that I do. But if you never open your mouth, I would never know.
So then, by that very statement, would you say that there may be many young men coming even to a place called church or living in an established family who may be depressed or lonely and it is not detected or discovered?
Yeah, and additionally, sometimes it is detected. However, the boundary that's placed between the issue and the individuals who you think can and cannot help you is the bigger issue. For example, I know my mother and father loved me enough and saw my mom praying earnestly for me to make a change in my life, and other people would have reminded me of how much God loves me and all of that. However, I was still curious about what I did not know. I got a taste.
Pause. Now, he just said something. He knows his mother and father loved him. Now, I know his parents. His mother worked at my office, and I try to give your daddy 6 love sometimes, or 10 love, and so I still owe him one. Listen to Belich are coming after you. We love Dominoes, and so so I know that you grew up in that circle. Adam and Eve, well, more Eve than Adam. Now, ladies are not blaming you. And trouble now never set like rain. Curiosity sometimes causes not to, it is a springboard for learning, but it is also a trap for depression and stuff like that. So they were made perfect. They were made in a perfect place by a perfect God. But here come the devil, and he excited Eve's curiosity. And the sister said, boy, the devil said, listen, God knows that if you do what him say you mustn't do, you're going to be more like him. Now, I grew up as a stubborn boy, and I'm always curious. If you tell me, don't go down there, so, you're going to have to tell me all the reasons I mustn't go, because if you don't tell me, or if you don't tell me now whether it makes sense,
I'm going to go find out for myself.
I'm going to want to go explore and find out for myself.
No problem. And I think I was like that too, in regards to just wanting to have the insight. Because the only way that you would have the insight is either by somebody telling you the information, or the more practical way of having the experience for yourself. In regards as the coming back to being lonely in a crowd, there are many people who look at you but don't know your heart, so automatically.
Yeah. My friend Orville Dunstan from Burnside, that we grew up together, he said, it's Peter Tosh who's saying, pick myself up. Thank you, Dunstan.
And as I said, it's a bit, it's kind of complimentary to have the experience, but in regards to being lonely in the crowd, you'd have to either be bold enough to speak, or you could be wise enough to observe, because you would know the social cues or the emotional cues that you would feel in a particular situation for young men who either are in a crowd, being amongst their peers, and you're either being pressured to smoke, drink, you're in a social setting, a girl is approaching in a particular way. Somebody else can observe that you either don't have the experience or you're over-experienced in those areas. So with the observation, you can identify people who have been through those same struggles, as I was alluding to last week. It's not that I was looking for dirt, but I started to see familiar characters or familiar qualities within individuals. And you have many people who sit before you, praise, and go home empty. And I've seen it.
Pause now. They sit in church, they pray, and they go home empty. Now, that's an awesome statement, but it's a practical statement. And I tell folk that when we come to this place called church, all kind of problems come to church dressed up in fancy clothing. And sometimes they go home the same way because they can't trust. They can't find somebody who they can trust. Number two, they look at us and because we don't take the time to sit down and have real conversation, we appear as phony to them. We appear as if we can't walk in their moccasin, we can't put on their shoes. And sometimes I love to sit with young people and say, talk to me. And for a while, because they feel that we are going to judge them after the conversation. We're not going to see them the same way. May I look in the camera to some parent, to some church brother, some church sister, and say, when you go to church this coming Sabbath, or this coming Sunday, or this coming Wednesday, whenever you go to church, church must be a place where we are real with real people. It may be the only space they can come to and find some energy to go back and deal with what's waiting for them. Earlier, when we started some weeks ago, it says the average man have fewer people in their lives they could call on in times of difficulty and isolation. It's a major risk factor for mental health problems. Supportive and understanding relationships are essential for a healthy mind, a healthy body, and a healthy soul. God is not just interested in our clapping of hands and singing songs. He is interested in when you walk to the door of the place called church, what you're going to face out there, how you're going to handle it, how you're going to deal with the girl or the guy whose feasting is always at the king's table. But you have purpose in your mind that you don't want to defile yourself. But Sean, I'm going to use a phrase. I look down my office, or even outside this building here, sir, and the water drip off of the huge rooftop on the tough concrete. You know the indentation of the zinc?
Yes.
If you go out there and look, you will see where the water makes the mark in the tough concrete by one dripping at a time.
Just the consistency.
Exactly. Consistent pressure can make the best of us fall. If the pipe has no water flowing into it, it can have no water flowing out of it.
True.
If the man is not nurtured by a good relationship, hear me, sister, the man in your life is not supposed to be just a money-producing machine or a food-producing factory. Because he's going to have need. If there is no supporting, if he has no water flowing into his own mental and emotional space, after a while there'll be no water coming out of the pipe. No, I don't mean that other pipe. I'm just saying that the real truth is, if the natural pipe have no source connected with water, after a while you turn on the tap and nothing is going to come out of it.
And I like the fact that you made that point. It's really transactional these days. It's more of what can you do for me rather than how can we help each other.
Okay.
And that's the space in where youth ministry, because as you said, stepping out and finding someone to speak to after church, because you're still going past those on the road who have their problems. You've come to church, you've left your issues at the altar, you've been recharged, and you step back into the community. The question is, can you identify with your neighbor and say, hey, you know, so just last week, Miss Mary, when I have the same problem, and because of that, Mr. Jennings offered her some help. You need some food, you need a job right now, what's going on? Realize we're not hearing music over your house for the last 2 weeks. I mean, no say there's a man who play music every night after 8. What's happening? Everything all right? Just a break in transmission for somebody to hear. You're concerned.
That you notice the little things in their life. Noticing it enough to take an interest in checking them out to see what happens.
True. And in the Jamaican sense, you're going to hear, oh, enough. No.
You're fast.
Some of the time, the people who say you're enough or say you're fast, are the people who genuinely needed somebody
Crying
to
out
say.
for somebody. Listen, I met a man, a grown man, I won't call the church, right here in Montego Bay, came to my office and we chatted for a few weeks. Well, he would come after work. When I say after work, I mean office closed at 5 o'clock. Most of us are there until 10 o'clock at night. And he would come sometimes after 6 minutes to 7 when he thinks that, and we would have a conversation. Now, here it is. At 15, he was attending a certain church in Montego Bay. He said he would leave church in the evenings, go to a certain community that I will not call. Grown men would give him and his companions guns. I'm talking about teenagers, you know. And he said, nobody knew, nobody took the time to notice that he was crying out for help. Every evening he would leave. Grown men would send them as teenagers to go hold up people, and then they'd have to bring the gun back and bring back what they got. And then the owner of the gun would give them something. He said he stopped going to church. Nobody missed him. Nobody called, nobody come. I want to talk to church folk. As a preacher, I know it's hard enough to get young men to come to Christ. Many times they leave because church fail to take a practical interest in their well-being. So when I met him, he had stopped going to church for more than probably 15 years or more. Now into this thing they call scamming. We chatted for a few months well. I never condemned him. I welcomed him into my space at the office. We chatted. I made him feel like a somebody. Didn't look down on him. And after a few months, well, he was back in the church. He was back because, busy as I am, I allowed him to know that there is no challenge he was facing, that I am too busy to listen to him. I said to him, listen, my days are exceedingly taxing. So tell you what, I'm here at 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock. If you're free, come, let's chat. He came, then he brought his brother, then he brought his girlfriend, and we spent some time just chilling and talking about how to handle life. And he would come with questions. Now, it says that healthy relationships involve honesty, trust, respect, and open communication. It is so in man-to-man talk, but it is even more so in male-female relationships. What does I'm going to put you on the spot. What does a relationship mean to the Sean?
A relationship means a place where time doesn't exist and all I can think about is either being watered or watering the person I love.
Well, on the board, you said, where time doesn't exist.
Because if you check it out, if spending time with you provides me enough comfort to forget my struggles.
Now you put a song in my head, man. I can't stop loving you. I've made up my mind. No. The song, how the father says, they say that time heals a broken heart, but time has stood still since we've been apart. Is that kind of time you're talking about, that time either stand still or disappear?
Yeah, because as I said, there's so much comfort, joy, and pleasure in being just in the presence of that individual, right? That it robs you of your worries. And as God would have said in his word, come let us reason together. If we can provide ourselves with the opportunity to take the space that God has provided for us, just to come to him, just to reason with him, to laugh and lavish and just go through his promises, or even just the basic life of others who he has led in the past. It provides us with so much reassurance that half of the struggles you think you had, you don't necessarily have them.
In other words, I have to be butting in. So I grew up around my great-grandmother, and she would make some statements like, iron sharpeneth iron. One hand can't clap. Bird can't fly upon one wing. So you're saying in order to handle the issues of life, be it depression or stress, and sometimes it's positive stuff, but you just need a good direction. You're saying that a healthy, wholesome relationship is valuable to growing a strong life as a man.
Yeah, because you have to have a reference. You must have a reference in regards to what healthy looks like. And too often is the problem really is that everybody is trying to create what healthy looks like to them, and it can be conflicting to others based on what their upbringing. It's a struggle to be healthy and hold yourself accountable, especially when the desire to engage in the pleasures, to fit in with others, brings you so much.
You said it's a struggle to be healthy and wholesome as a man. And we began, I think, last week or the week before, looking at Daniel chapter 1, I think verse 10, but Daniel purposed in his heart. But there's always the challenge of the king's meat. Sometimes it's the queen's meat still, but we set the king's meat as the demand, the presentation of privileges that challenge our principles. And sometimes as young men or even old men, we put the privilege ahead of the principle. And we end up losing both the privilege and the principle.
True. And let's look at it in a more reasonable sense. We always hear that men aren't loved unless they provide. Correct?
That's transactional.
However, if you look at how many people's relationship with Christ is, Christ has done more than we could ever imagine. But if we don't get what we want in the way we want it, we don't accept it.
So you just said something. If we're not getting what we want in the way we want it, and it may well be that the way we want it, it may not be the best thing for us. But they say our perception is our reality. And I began earlier by saying, it is not in man that walketh to direct his steps. And the other text was, let not the wise man glory in his wisdom. And both verses are saying that you and I, even if we were to have 10 earned PhDs in atom and physics and splitting all of the scientific intricacies of this life, we would still not have the wisdom to manage our lives without God.
No.
And because we don't get the stuff the way we want it, we feel that it doesn't make no sense. And the same thing is true in relationships. Some men, because they don't get sex, or because they don't get the woman to act the way they think she should act, them gone. And vice versa. In this transactional relationship world, how would you say to a young man that he can succeed? What would you say to him?
Don't devalue people. Accept people for who they are and the potential that they have. And the gifts that they have may not be the gifts that you have. So if you want to do well, I studied marketing at NCU, which is Northern Caribbean University. And within one of our classes, I think was strategic management, you had the SWOT analysis. You had your strengths, your weaknesses, the opportunities, and the threats. So if you don't know your strengths, if you don't know the threats, you won't understand the opportunities that come. If you don't know your weaknesses, you won't greatly appreciate the strength of others. And that's how most people overlook things in the transactional sense of the relationship. Here we are in a space where I am good at communicating to others my ideas, but at the same time, you may be better at planning the overall event and the structure. Just because I am not the individual who provided structure to the plan doesn't mean that I don't have a purpose. The people usually have selfish desires. The ego drives them to want to do things contrary to what the capacity that they have. If John can do it, me can do it. Yes, you might take out the paintbrush like John and paint the wall, but you don't have that. artistic gift where he knows how to cut corners naturally, and he may have a little flick of his wrist when he's painting a particular portion. And you say, no man, me I paint all evening and I can't do that. Oh, you do that. You may have to use the tape and tape out your outline and practice to get it right. And there's no shame in that. The issue is always, I should be the one who is capable of that. Yet you're not observing of the skills and the gifts that you currently have that not, I wouldn't say outshines the other individual, but makes you unique.
Exactly. So in the process, while the expert is doing what the expert is equipped to do, the fact that I'm not an expert, I can be a participant in the process so that there is fulfillment on either side. So my wife bakes the best wedding cakes, the best fruit cake ever, full stop, hands down. But we can't bake. I've been eating her fruit cake for a long time. So I'll help. What you call it again now?
Mix the butter.
Yes, man. I'll mix up the stuff when she put the butter and the sugar on it. Yeah, man. And I'll do that, and I'll wash the dishes when you finish. I'm an equal partner in the baking process.
True.
Yeah, man. And
because she gets the appreciation of seeing that you appreciate it, and she does, after all that baking, she doesn't have to go through the hustle of cleaning up by herself.
So that while I am not the expert at it, but I do what I can do in the process, because it's a part of the partnership in baking. And the same is true. You spoke about earlier that it's a transactional world. And this transactional type of relationship devalues one or maybe both partners in the process.
True.
Because we learn to place a value on things and not on people. So let me look in the camera and say, maybe there's a husband or a father or a big brother. Value the person more than what you can get from the person. Value the individual more than the stuff that they can do. We're talking about men and Mondays, and part of the struggle we have in our society is this devaluing of the currency of the human person, their skill sets. And even in church, we have the struggle where the ones who can sing as well may never get on the platform. But the fact that you don't get on the platform does not mean you don't have a value. Find what you're good at and do it. And for those of us who are in leadership, we have to identify some persons. And if we can't identify their gifts and skill sets, involve them in something. Make them feel a part of the process. I think we run so fast that we run past the song. So let me say this, that there are young men, Deshaun, who are caught up in the transactional postmodern life that we're in. And some don't feel valued or valuable because their currency is not as high as the others they see around them. And even though they are with the potential, because of their perception, they never seek to develop the potential that they have. What would you say to a young man that has great potential, but a wrong concept, a bad attitude, his clouds, dark clouds are floating in his mental horizon and he can't see his potential?
Bring himself back to the place where he last found purpose or found enjoyment. Think of, if he's an individual who has a love for people, think of the people he would have blessed or who would have seen him and encouraged him for the little things that he had done. We have to go back to where the simpler times were. In regards to being transactional, we are always being transactional at this point in life because we feel like we don't have enough time. Yet, one of the most important fruits of the Spirit would have been patience. We tend to overlook, I have to get it now and I have to get it right now, because if I don't get it right now, there may be no future or there may be no then. Not understanding that you can sing the song 10 times and in the 10th or 7th or even 3rd time, you find out say you have like a baritone, you realize you have like an alto, you realize you can hold a bass line, and it's the practice of it all. You must find your purpose by practicing to do what is right, regardless of how you feel. Because only in the practice will you see the practical example of your purpose, especially when it comes on to your attitude towards your struggles. The power of your potential, the power of your attitude depends on the reliance, as you said, on Christ. Because if he could do what he thought he couldn't do, because he said, Father, if it is possible, let this cup pass from me, but nevertheless, your will.
And you just said something that's powerful, that even Christ recognized the challenge to his humanity. That he said, let this cup pass from me. But in that request was a resolute settling of the mind, nevertheless. In other words, this is what my humanity wants, but I am here to do your will. I see what's on the king's table, but I am purposing in my heart. The Bible said, as a man thinks in his heart, so is he. And in the book that I hold in my hand about the power of your attitude, it says that man often becomes what he believes himself to be. He often becomes, so if I keep on saying to myself that I cannot do this, it's possible I may not do it. But if I keep telling myself it is possible, no matter how dark the road is. And so he says, things become possible for you that wouldn't have been otherwise, but because of your attitude and mindset, that which seemed to be impossible becomes possible. Our time has just about run out. But thank you for being vulnerable, for being practical, for sharing your story. And we want to say to some youngster that, was it on Instagram that talk to me a little bit about that piece?
Yeah. That piece would be found on the SDA Corner. It's a very powerful page on Instagram where many Seventh-day Adventists can either minister to the rest of the world what it takes to be a Seventh-day Adventist, and or the pleasures in becoming an Adventist, and even sharing our testimony on that platform. It's a place where I did not know how easily it was for us to congregate as Seventh-day Adventists until I got to that page and realized that they're talking about everything that the rest of the world struggles with. Whether it's your time, whether it's who to marry, whether it's what your belief in Christ, how your faith is.
And you talk about who to marry. That's an issue that a number of young men struggle with, number of females as well, because a guy looking for that sexy physique, not knowing that 1/3 come from China, 1/3 come from Singapore, another piece come from Australia, and I'm real, Sean. I'm real, and some of the sisters that have the real stuff. I mean that they were born with it. They don't have to buy it from China. It's not made from plastic or from silicone.
As we always know that other people, as you would have said, there is either the style in which they wear, or it's how they present themselves in the array of the king's attire. And you really have to be careful, because in regards to it's, you can be deceived by the pleasure, deceived by the eyes, and you want to touch. And you feel like, I have not experienced that. But the thing is, you can be tricked by the experience, just as Eve was. It only took her a fraction of time to make a decision that we up to this day are still perishing for.
Mm-hmm.
And at this point, enough of the time we complain and say, man, if me ever see Eve, I want to give her a lick. But we have to now consider that the youth are looking at us, and in our everyday lives, we are facing the similar temptation that Eve would face. but just in a different sense. What is it that will easily beset us that we have already identified because we fall into it so many times that we know, all right, I really have to either get myself out of that space, I need to just dissolve that relationship altogether. The practical experience of saying no to self is painful, but the discipline of it is where the pleasure comes in.
Wow. The practical experience of saying no to self is painful, but the discipline, when you discipline yourself to say no, the real pleasure comes out of it. Awesome stuff. I want to thank you for being. Now somebody said that they love you because you are open and plain. This was a great program tonight, Pastor Samuels. Thank you for coming out and sharing these thoughts and ideas with us. Good night and be safe. And earlier up, some person work well behind the scenes. They are very good at organizing things, but you can't get them up front. I have one as one of my daughters. I have 3 girls, and they're different. One is as shy as you can ever spell the word shy. The other one, and so they're different personalities, different types, and but each I love in their own. And so, as we go off air this evening, I want you to know that together we can make the world a better place. It's better to grow strong sons than repair broken men. But even broken men can be repaired. So if you've been broken because you have made wrong decisions, if you have failed, you are not a failure because you have failed. Don't stay down. Maybe you've been down so long that getting up is never on your mind. Maybe you feel so broken that you feel you can't be mended. We have plain, straight dialogue. I think it was Vern Jackson that has a song that says, higher than I've ever been. It begins by saying, once a bird has a broken wing, they say it can never fly again. And he talks about how he's been broken, and he says, but now, because of Christ, he's flying higher than he's ever been. So, and I have to tease you. God, take my life. He took it and is making something wonderful out of it. I want to say to you watching this evening, as a young man, a little boy, a grown man, if you are a youngster at school or primary school or high school or wherever, or just on the street corner, find a purpose. Don't stop believing in that purpose. Don't stop believing in yourself. You can never tell. God hears every prayer. He may not answer it the way you prayed, but there's one thing that's clear. He answers every prayer. I was talking to someone last evening, a successful businessman in Montego Bay. And as we talked about his life, he said he owes a lot to West Indies College. And he'll give anything to West Indies College because West Indies College has made him what he's become. And I said to him, you know, my mother couldn't afford to send me to college. And a stranger went with Milton Gregory, who is now the dean of the School of Theology in Mandeville. God bless Milton and Gloria. A stranger, the first day he met me, we talked, and behind my back, he went up to the hill, paid my college tuition before I even registered. And I want to say to a youngster watching, I don't know how God's going to solve your problem. What I do know is that he can and he will if you'll trust him. I don't know how you are going to grow out of where you are. I do know if you get up and you put one foot forward and then the next. One step may not take you the whole journey, but you go step by step as you walk. And the song that we used to sing at Orville, if you're watching, Orville Dunstan he was the older one of the 31 of us who were baptized together. And we used to sing the song, hand in hand we walk each day. Walking thus I cannot stray, hand in hand with Jesus. There's another one that said, each step I take, I know that he will guide you. As we go into our closing thoughts, make the step forward. Make the move. And so I read another statement from you. In a world where misinformation distorts the essence of manhood and societal expectations push men into emotional incarceration, there is a path to freedom. Don't imprison yourself because of emotional dark clouds. Freedom is possible. If you are in Christ, he can make you free. I want to ask you to believe in the Lord your God. Even if you're not a Christian, the sovereignty of God, he caused the rain to fall upon the just and upon the unjust. Every breath you take, every move you make, you are the recipient of God's tender care. I want to say to the women in your life, don't stop believing in your son, your husband, your brother, your father, because you may be the only sane element. You may be the only sobering process and issue. Together, let's make our society a better place. We go to our song, and I'll come back for our closing prayer. And so while he's going to find the song, I'll just give a few seconds to find it, and we'll come right back for the closing prayer. But let's build wholesome men for a wholesome society. So I'll keep on talking until he finds the song. So here we go.
I am weak, but thou art strong. Jesus, keep me from all wrong. I'll be satisfied as long as I walk, dear Lord, close to thee. Now, just a closer walk with thee. Just a closer walk. Grant to Jesus, it is my plea. Just a closer walk. Daily walking close to thee. As I walk, dear Lord, close to thee. Now, when this feeble life is old, and time for me will be no more, I'll be sleeping till he comes and take me home to that bright, glorious shore. Now, just a closer walk with thee. Just a closer walk. Grant to Jesus, it is my plea. Oh, daily walking close to thee. As I walk, dear Lord, close to thee. Just a closer walk with thee. Just a closer walk. Grant to Jesus, it is my plea. Just a closer walk. Daily walking close to thee. As I walk, dear Lord, close to thee. As I walk, dear Lord, close to thee.
Just a closer walk, and that's all we need to make life successful walking hand in hand with him. I did tell you I'll come back to the cruise. Yes, sir. So October 19 to 26, you can't miss it. It's the Footprints of Hope cruise aboard the ship Carnival Celebration. I'd love to have you aboard Carnival Celebration from the 19th, that's Sunday the 19th, to Sunday the 26th, sailing from Miami. Yes, sailing from Miami at 3 o'clock. So you can fly down from New York to Miami. You can fly down from Tennessee, from Connecticut, fly over from the Bahamas. You can fly from Jamaica. The ship sails at 3:30. It's Carnival Celebration. It sails to Grand Turks, Amber Cove, Dominican Republic, Nassau, Celebration Keys in Grand Bahama. Come for worship, come for fun, come for fellowship on the sea. And I promise you, last cruise we found a chef who cooked dumplings for us. Yes, man, I had dumplings on board the ship. And so I assure you that we will have dumplings on board the ship. So how do I book? Here's the information. It's on the screen, but let me share with you. You call Carnival Group Booking. It's 1-866-721-3225. The group booking number is X6N as in Nancy, N as in Nancy 91. That's X6NN91. The ship, as I said, is Carnival Celebration. And you can also call 876-316-0668. Or you can call 876-952-2727. You can ask for myself or ask for Mrs. Anderson, and we'll be happy to help you. Have your credit card or your debit card ready with your date of birth, as it is on your travel documents. Confirm who your roommate is. It is, and by the way, select your room cabin type. So we give you basic cost of $845 per person for the interior room. But of course, they can tell you the other areas available. And so your travel requirements, you must have a visa, and we can't give you a visa, right? Your passport must have at least 6 months left in it. And for visa support, 876-828-5102. And as we said before, the interior cabins, tomorrow is February 8th. So book tonight and book tomorrow to make sure that you cash in. And all you need to start with is $250 per person. And you have until June 27 to make your final payment. It is also refundable. So it's $845 on deck 4, 4B, decks 4 and 5. And of course, other decks, it goes up to $875 on deck 14, etc. And if you want a spa room, the Cloud 9 Spa access, the room rate at the Cloud 9 Spa is $935. And if you want, of course, the expensive section of ocean view and the balcony, of course, a little more expensive. But please, start booking tonight or tomorrow. We're going to have worship sessions. We will have seminar sessions. We'll have fun sessions. So we will, of course, you'll have your own time for fun and relaxation. We're just putting in, we're leaving on Sunday, so that Sunday evening will be our first worship encounter. Then on Wednesday and on Friday, and of course, all day Sabbath, we will have Sabbath school on, as we have it here on set. We will have in-verse, we will have children. No, we don't have. If we have children, we'll have children's church. Of course, we will have Beyond the Surface with Mr. Tremendous and his crew aboard Carnival Celebration. We will have mentorship, of course, with me and the crew aboard the ship, and we will have our prayer session and fellowship sessions. We'll have some seminars, but you can't afford to miss it. It is Footprints of Hope Cruise, October 19 to 26. Start booking right now. I see you on board. Let's sail away for an experience of a lifetime. Sean, you prayed last time?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, man, do it again this evening.
No problem. As we ask you, Lord, to continue to bless us and give us the opportunity to present to our dying world the pleasure of knowing you before it's too late. Provide us the comfort in knowing that you can challenge anything that we can think of, because your thoughts are higher than our thoughts. And as we provide you with an opportunity to bless us in a way unimaginable, allow us to dispense that same blessing to our communities and the rest of the world at large. In Jesus' name I pray.
Amen. Until next Monday, we will see you men on Mondays. But don't forget, book tonight and tomorrow for the Footprints of Hope cruise, October 19 to 26. Again, let me give you one final time. Have your passport. It must have at least 6 months left in it. Make sure you have your credit or debit card when you call, and your name and date of birth as it is in your passport. And again, the group booking number is X6NN91. That is X6NN91. You can call up Carnival and tell them you're booking on the Footprints of Hope cruise. The ship is Carnival Celebration, and 1-866-721-3225. Or call us here at West Jamaica tomorrow and we'll help you. Do have a great week, a great night. We'll see you next Monday.
Jesus is the answer for the world today. Above him there's no other. 'Cause Jesus is the way.